The D&D Daily team has been homebrewing again. Today, we're bringing you a fighter subclass, the Elemental stance. I think you guys are going to love this subclass, and let me explain why. You have 4 different stances. You have fire, earth, air, and water, each one representing a different fighting style. While in fire, you focus on aggression, doing a lot of damage. While in wind, you focus on mobility. Earth, you focus on tankiness, and water, you focus on redirecting enemies. At the beginning of each turn, you choose which stance you're going to be in. Each one is going to give you separate benefits. You get all these stances at level 3 right out the gate. Each stance is going to have a passive ability and an active ability. The active ability consumes our resource, which we call stance tokens. They let you do something generally more powerful while in your stance. The wind stance, for example, is going to give you 10 feet of extra movement speed passively. Then, if you want to use a stance charge, you can use the dash, disengage, or dodge as a bonus action. The fire stance does an additional d6 damage to one of your attacks per turn, and then if you want to use a stance charge, you can get an additional bonus action attack out of it. The stone stance, you're going to get a +1 AC passively. If you want to use a stance token, you're going to get some temporary HP, and as long as you have that temporary HP, you're going to have advantage on strength checks and saving throws. The water stance, you can use your reaction to take one attack and you get to roll a dice in order to see how much extra AC you can get. Or alternatively, you can use a stance token to redirect an attack back at the attacker or an ally that's within range of the attacker. Once you hit level 7, we're going to increase our flexibility. Once per turn, we can spend a stance token to be able to switch over to a new stance. On top of switching over to a new stance and getting the new passive benefits from this stance, we also get an additional bonus. So if we're switching to wind stance, for example, our movement speed is going to increase by 15 extra movement speed, and we don't provoke opportunity attacks. Flame stance lets us lower the resistance or immunity of an enemy within 15 feet of us down 1 tick. So if they have immunity, it's resistance. If they have resistance, it's nothing. And if they have nothing, it goes to vulnerability, so our fire damage can do extra damage. Stone stance gives us an AoE crowd control where we can attempt to knock down enemies around us on the floor. And water stance makes us incredibly evasive. All of our enemies are going to have disadvantage on attacks against us until the start of our next turn. So now we can start out a turn in fire stance. We can do our attacks, dealing extra damage. We can then use a stance token to move into our wind stance and have the ability to have extra maneuverability to reposition ourselves. The amount of flexibility with this build is endless, and it's going to be really exciting for creative players who like to adapt to different situations. I think a lot of you will have a lot of fun playing this. Level 10, we make sure that you come into combat at least with a few stance tokens no matter what. At level 15, we get our final stance upgrades. These are more passive benefits. While we're in the wind stance, we get a flying speed. Flame stance, we get fire resistance, and every single one of our attacks deals that d6 of extra damage now, which is going to do a lot of extra damage once we combine it with the vulnerability. Fire stance can dish out some damage. Stone stance, we get resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage, and we're not impeded by difficult terrain on the ground. And water stance gives us resistance to cold damage, and once per turn, we can make an enemy have to make a saving throw or be restrained. This doesn't take any of our action economy, so this allows us to restrain someone and then go absolutely ham on them. And at level 18, you get stance mastery, which just doubles the amount of stance tokens you have, so you can go absolutely crazy. Now let's talk about some build concepts here. You can specialize in one of these stances. Let's say you want to be the team's tank. You can focus on being earth stance more often than not and only switching stances when you need its utility. You can do that with any of the stances, or you can be a generalist, and this would work whether you want to be a sword and board, a heavy weapon specialist, or an archer. You're going to find a lot of benefits no matter which route you go, and it offers a ton of customization for you getting that perfect flavor and mechanics out of whatever build you're trying to do. As for multi-classing, with just a 3-level dip, we get all 4 stances and get to switch to one every single turn. We're not going to have the customization of coming in and out of stances a whole bunch, but just choosing a stance each turn is going to be powerful in its own right. So if you're just dipping fighter and going the rest in another martial, 3 levels will be just fine for this build. If you want to do something more Gish oriented, take 5 levels in fighter and then go Gish from there. Go your caster of choice from there. Of course, we can do it the other way around. We can invest mostly in this build and then go take 2 levels in barbarian, getting rage and reckless attack to just take it to another level. Sky is the limit, but this was just an overview. If you guys want the whole document, you can find it completely for free in the description down below. And with that, my friends, I hope you have yourselves an incredible day, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.